everybody, welcome back to the channel. Big hello to all the new subscribers. So this is kind of the part 2 of a comparison between a 1978 Johnson American made 2-horse and a 1995 made in Hong Kong Evinrude 3.3 horsepower. So first we'll take a look at the Evinrude 3.3 running in the tank and with the bonnet off and different things, and then I'll go over a little bit of opinion on what I found on both of them, good and bad, and so we're gonna do that. Oh, hang on, somebody just pulled up. Let me get this, hang on.
Hey! It's me, Billy Ray! Somebody told me you were on that there yarn tube putting down America. They told me you even put down Johnson outboard motors. That's un-American. You don't be doing that. I had to trade 9 beaver pelts for my Johnson 2-horse motor. Oh, you ain't one of them guys what don't like beavers, are you? You do like beavers, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, mink, otter, beaver, yeah, sure. I'm okay with, yeah, I'm okay with that. No problem. Alrighty, here's the little Evinrude 3.3. Pulled the carburetor off. That was just one 10mm bolt screw that you accessed from right here, but you did have to take out a few screws, 4 screws, and 2 more little teeny screws that held the choke and throttle knob on. But as you can see, there ain't much to it. One thing that I can point out that is kind of unique. Now this is an Evinrude, although it says made in Hong Kong on it. If you look at that coil, that is your standard OMC coil. That is not a Japanese part. That's your typical CDI type coil that Evinrude would use on an Evinrude motor. So there are Evinrude parts on here. I do believe that's original because of the bossing, the way it's bolted to the side of the aluminum. I don't believe anybody added that. I believe it. And it's got your typical orange wire with blue stripe for the top spark plug, which of course this only has one spark plug. But there it is right there. Made in Hong Kong. Outboard Marine Corporation, King Kong, Hong Kong. So, but there are genuine OMC parts on there. As you can see, cowl pan and all's plastic. CDI Corporation. Sorry about my compressor being noisy there, but I like this little access door for the single spark plug in there. And you can see I put a new one in there. So, and then That's a CDI capacitor discharge ignition. That white creamy stuff looking on there is core seal. That'll turn black. I did not take the flywheel off and everything because when I checked it for spark, it had spark just fine. Alright, so carburetor. It is a very simple, small carburetor. I will go ahead and pull it down, pull the needle out a little further, but again, just like the other one, it had a little varnish looking stuff in it. There's the throttle slide, pretty clean. So it too had a little varnish and yuck. I squirted some carb cleaner, intake cleaner in there. I'm letting that soak for a minute. I'll go ahead and pull the needles and stuff out and get it a little bit cleaner, and then we'll put it back together. I'll be back. Alright, so I'll go over the little 2 horsepower Johnson first. The good stuff on it that I found the pros, as it were. Very lightweight. According to the manual that I found, I'm pretty sure I was looking at the right one. It's 26 pounds dry. That is a light, very portable piece of portable power equipment. I mean, 26 pounds. One of the other pros that I saw about it was on the throttle. When you move the throttle to advance it, it feels better built, tough, and well constructed, and it doesn't want to vibrate back or anything when the engine's running. And that's another pro on it to me, was overall materials that the motor is constructed out of were built just like anything back in the 70s. They're going to be better. Had brass internal parts in the carburetor, the hinge pin, the float lift, and all that was brass. The cowling, aluminum. They used plastic in a very limited way, and in the places that I like to see plastic, such as the fuel tank. I like that. It has a ABS black plastic fuel tank. That's my take. I've never had a rusty plastic fuel tank, so I like that. Here's something that I'll put this one on this motor in the neutral. It depends on the person or even the application of the motor. It has adjustable carb settings, so you can adjust the high and low settings on the carburetor. Well, where this engine might be used is flying into high alpine lakes and so forth for hunting trips on a raft or something like that. You can adjust those settings. That could be a pro. Some people don't like to adjust carburetors. They just want them preset and be done with it. So it depends on the application of the motor, I think, and the personal preference side of that, the adjustable carburetor. So those are the things that I liked about it. And now for some of the things that I think are on the con side to me. I definitely, and I've run these engines before, think they could have done a better job on the cooling, the water pump setup and everything in this motor. They tend to run a little hot to me. However, it is open on the sides and all, so that air gets to it that way. But I still think they could have done a little better job with the water pump situation on this motor, the way it's situated and everything. They just spittle a little out of them little weep holes on the back, and I've put many water pump impellers in these little motors, and it doesn't seem to improve much. Once you put a new water pump and everything in it, it still just spittles. And I don't know if that's a sign of it not cooling as well, but I noticed that they tend, if you run them at high RPMs, they tend to run a little bit on the warm side. So I don't like that on this motor. I like the other style water pump setup situation. One thing and that I didn't like, I'm letting the bush plane go by. This one was a con as well. I looked best I could down in there, and I could see it pretty good. There was not an in-tank screen filter that I saw. There was also not an in-tank cup screen. Now that could be missing on this motor. I'm not sure if it had one or not, but it should. I think they all should have that. And they didn't, but that's no big deal. You just put an inline filter which I did. So that's on the con side. Other things that to me could even be a safety on this issue, which would apply to the other as well. They start in gear only, no neutral. So when you turn the flywheel, you're turning the prop. So that's something to think about. You cannot put them in neutral, and reverse, of course, you have to spin them 180. So that's everything I found on the Johnson 1978 American-made 2-horse. Now let's look at the 3-horse. 3.3. All right. Cons right off the bat, the materials that it's built out of are more what you would see on a small outboard in the 90s. A lot of plastic. The cowlings, the hood. This one, and I'll show you this when I look at the two motors side by side, the cowling don't even fit well anymore. It's warped and everything because it's not only made out of plastic, it's very thin. It has very little rigidity to it, so it's warped. It as well, for a con, did not have an in-tank screen filter or cup filter, so I put an inline filter on it as well. Both engines did have a fuel shutoff. The one on the Evinrude was missing. I have put it back. Weight on that one, according to my manual, and I have the exact manual for that engine, it shows a weight of 29.7 pounds, so 30 pounds. So you're looking at about 4 pounds heavier, but you're also getting a full horsepower and a half, so for that little bit of extra added weight. So it could be a con if weight was critical, super critical in a situation. It weighs a little bit more. But the amount of horsepower and the amount of water it moved, to me, was substantial, which you would expect because you're almost doubling the horsepower of the other one. The cooling system on this outboard, on the 3.3, much better in my opinion. It pumps a lot of water out the telltale hole, and it actually has a telltale hole, not the little spittle stuff located on the mid-leg like the Johnson does. So it had that. So that's a pro on it. Again, a neutral could go either way. The carburetor is really not adjustable other than the idles. It has fixed jets in the carburetor. Overall materials not as good as on the Johnson, but I think a lot of that was to keep the weight in check on it. What else was on that one? Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Well, that's about all I had on it. So, they're very close depending on which one you like. Old school, new school, American, Hong Kong. But there they are, kind of a side-by-side deal. And from the front, 1 transom clamp, 2 transom clamps. Both have the same, just lightweight. I believe that's aluminum. Yeah, it's aluminum. Another pro that I like is the carrying handle on this one. Something I forgot to mention as a con, I noticed that this, I have seen them, not this particular unit, but I have seen these where this wanted to come back down. When it was running, it would vibrate down. This one feels good and tight. So, And if you look at the fuel tank vent on this one, on the Johnson, aluminum. Plastic. Really no big deal. That's plastic. So the Johnson, there's a pro on it. That propeller is aluminum. That propeller is plastic. Both have pretty easy time getting to the spark plugs. This one has the little hatch. So I like the carrying handle on the back. Okay, so that's kind of a wrap on them. So, don't know which one that you might like the best, but if I had to choose between those two motors, and some may not like me saying so, but I would choose the Hong Kong 3.3.
You are a piece of work. You better fix that video, and you better fix it right.
The reason why is because I like the CDI ignition setup. I don't want to deal with the points, especially where I live in the Northwest, in the Pacific Northwest. It's wet, rainy all the time. And just like when I went through these two motors, in order to get the Johnson to start for the first time, I had to pull the flywheel, clean the points. And I was real surprised on this little motor, it doesn't have an access point in the flywheel to clean the points like many of the older motors do. That would have went a long way. But I understand some people like points, and they may even prefer them. But I like the CDI ignition part of the 3.3. The other reason I chose the 3.3, that thing moves a lot of water compared to the 2-horse. And yes, you've got a whole full horse and a half. And it shows, is the point I'm trying to make. So I like that, and it's readily apparent when I put each one in the tank. And if you watch the videos of the amount of water, and I didn't run either one of them at full wide open throttle. I just brought them up and to watch what kind of water they were pushing. And that 3.3 moves a lot of water for what it is. The plastic and the fact that it's, you know, I don't think there's a piece of brass on the engine. Yes, overall workmanship, material-wise, goes to the Johnson. As it would, got another float plane, as it would anything compared probably from the 70s to 1995. Most things are going to be made out of better materials back then. But in keeping the weight down, they went with the plastic. I have no problems with it. I even liked it because I can access things. There's actually quite a bit of room in up under that cowling because the pan is so thin and small and cheesy, but you can get to the things that you need to maintain very well on the 3.3. Harder to do on the 2-horse. You have to actually flip it upside down. There's brackets, clips, and all that just to get to where you can service things. So I like the fact that you can do that on the 3.3. So I'm probably overlooking some stuff, and I'm probably pissing more people off than just old Billy Ray. But that's my take on the two. I like the extra horsepower. I like the better access to things, and I really like the CDI electronic ignition over the points for me. So, hope I didn't make anybody mad. That's just my take on the two. I like the extra power and the more modern electronic ignition, but make no mistake about it. they're both very nice little kickers, and I consider myself fortunate to have them. So thanks for watching.